Cole talks with Wilford Lamastus, the legendary producer behind Elida Estate and the rise of Geisha in Panama.
It was my family that started this farm, Elida.
Elida Geisha?
Thank you.
The price of coffee was so low that we were losing money year after year after year after year. The first time I cupped Geisha, I didn't even know what Geisha was.
Welcome to By the Drip, the channel about the people behind the coffee and the passion that fuels it. We're two brothers who spent our lives chasing something deeper than just great coffee. From walking farms in remote corners of the world to training and coaching the last two world barista champions. I'm David Crosby, founder of ROSSO Coffee Roasters, the roaster behind back-to-back world champion wins. And I'm with my brother, Cole Terode, founder of Forward Coffee, sourcing some of the most inspiring coffees from Panama and building lasting relationships at origin. This isn't just a channel about coffee, it's about community, an obsession, and the pursuit of excellence. One cup, one story, one coffee at a time.
All right, everybody, welcome back to By the Drip. I am here with none other than Wilford Lamastus of Lamastus Family Estates.
Thank you so much, Cole.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Amazing to be here. We're coming to you from the Beneficio, from the Elida Estate, from
yes.
where all the magic happens.
Yes.
We're at the Wall of Awards.
Yes, thank you.
I don't know how much of an introduction needs to be done. I would assume most of the people that are going to tune in and watch this podcast know of the legendary Wilford Lamastus. Wilford, we love to start with a very simple question.
Okay.
How did you get into coffee? How do you start this sort of legacy brand that you operate today?
Okay, so it was my family that started this farm, Elida, 1918 on my father's side.
1918, so we're 107 years.
107 years.
Wow.
My father, his three sisters, and his brother were born and raised here in the farm. Remember, back then, there were no roads, so they basically spent the whole time here, except that when they were going to school, they bought a house 6.5 kilometers from here, near where the school was or still is. And my dad kept that house. That was a coffee farm. It was a 2.5 hectare coffee farm, and I was born in that house. So, and on my mother's side, the same thing. So we have the other farm called El Burro, and some other farms that my grandfather also had, like, for example, Las Brujas was my grandfather's farm too, and a couple of other ones, the one that the other farm that the Royals family had in that area of Cabecera Cochea, that's the name of the region, was also my grandfather. My grandfather had on my mother's side, a lot of farms. So, but it's the same thing. The whole family was born and raised in the coffee farm. So, and I have been here doing coffee since then, since I was born, yes.
Wow. So 107 years your family's been in the coffee space, producing coffee. What would coffee have looked like 107 years ago?
Oh, well, when I was a kid, we used to harvest the trees. Well, the variety was typica.
Everything typica?
Everything was typical, 100% typica. And interesting fact, so this farm is 65 hectare, and coffee back then was planted only up to 1,750, less than 1,800 meters above sea level. Now we have coffee above 2,100. And they let the coffee trees, the typica trees, just grow. They never pruned the trees. They never fertilized. They never pruned the trees. They just cut the grass and that's it. And I remember when I was a kid that we used to harvest those trees. And the way to harvest the coffee was using ladders. We still have photos of the ladders. They were 6 foot tall, high ladders, almost 2 meters ladders. So you just put it on top of the tree and go harvest and come back around. So yes, I was involved harvesting coffee. And then, of course, every single farm up until the 1960s, early 1960s, every single farm in Boquete had their own mill.
Okay.
There was not central mill. So why do I say this? We're back to that again. But for a while, since now what is called Cafetería Río Cochea, it was called Beneficio Central de Café, Central Processing Coffee Mill, where they got together the different farms. Remember, back then, quality was not important. So the different farmers got together, the one from here, from Lerida, from Suarez, from Garrido, from all over the place, all over Boquete. They got together and said, hey guys, why don't we do something? Why don't we process all our coffees from all the farms in one central mill? And they had collection points in different parts of town where the farmer brought the coffee there. It was measured by volume. Now we do it by weight. Then it was taken to the central mill, which is down in the lowlands. They had a nice big patio, 3,000 square meter patio to dry the coffee. And from then they used to export the coffee together. So at the end, so called, you submitted X many kilos of coffee. At the end of the year, we sold it for so much. This is your money, this is your money.
And they just split it by percentage of your input versus my input.
Exactly. So when it was sold and everything else, all the processing costs from the mill came out and the money came back from selling the coffee, from exporting the coffee, then you get your portion. Of course, you used to get money in advance to pay your pickers.
Right.
Okay. But so back then it was back in the 1980s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, up until the 1960s, every single farm had their own mill. So I used to play in the coffee mills too. I used to play in the coffee mills, wash when the coffee was drying, went to the storage area, everything was washed back then. Very little natural,
right?
Because it takes longer to dry. You need more room to store the natural, whatever. And then I used to play in the parchments all the time, in the coffee mills too, yeah.
And so, like at the bottom of the road here, in the split between Alto Lino and Los Naranjos, would that be one of those centralized drop-off locations?
Exactly.
That would be an example.
That's one example.
Okay.
Look, when you go down, then the first fork, if you make a left, you go to the area of Orqueta, whatever. There used to be one right there, and then right where you say in Alto Lino, there used to be another one. And if you go to Alto Lino all the way before you get to Altieri, there used to be one there too. And in downtown, there used where Rachel lived, like in that hill, there used to be one there. And then they used to use the slope to collect the coffee down here. There used to be many vivideros, we call them.
Wow. So your family's been in coffee for 100 plus years. What generation of producer? What generation are you? Fourth?
I am the fourth, third generation. Junior is the fourth. My grandfather, my father, myself, and then Wilford Jr., he's the fourth. I'm the third.
Okay.
I'm 65 years old, man.
And
I'm not your age.
You have more energy than I do, though. So I admire you for that. We're going to talk about that at some point. You're the third generation. At what point did you decide that you are going to do coffee? Was that a forever thing, or did you explore other industry and other?
Well, it was a forever thing, except
okay,
when we had the big crisis.
Okay.
So if you ask an expert, when we had the big crisis, which was a crisis that lasted, according to experts, a generation. It's not like one every 25 years or every 30 years. Once in a generation, the price of coffee was so low that we were losing money year after year after year after year. In fact, if you go to Palmira, let's say you drive to La Esmeralda and you go down and you see a big mill which belongs to Café Ruiz.
Yeah.
That used to be my grandfather's.
Okay.
On my mother's side, and then my father took over that mill. All that farm, including Justin's farm, used to be our farm. I used to play there as a kid with my grandfather on my mother's side. And the one across the street where the La Esmeralda has cattle now, there used to be a coffee farm and it used to belong to us. Okay, to my grandfather on my mother's side, and we used to run that. My father used to run that farm too and that big mill too. So I have been in coffee all my life, but there was a period where those farms that I just mentioned, that mill, that farm that the Peterson have as cattle, Justin's across, we had to sell it because we were losing money. We were going to lose the business if we didn't sell it.
This is during the crisis.
During the crisis, starting in the 1980s, let's say 1990s, all the way until, that's why we formed the SCAP. So we were trying to do other industries we were doing. As a matter of fact, I ate some artichokes a couple of days ago. We used to plant artichokes, sweet onions, blackberries, raspberries, asparagus, and then none of that worked. We couldn't compete against Central America, Guatemala, whatever. That I'm talking about in the early 1990s. Before that, also, all the way on, until the 2000s when SCAP was formed. We formed in 1997, but still, we're still in the middle of the crisis. During that time, coffee was, we never sold this farm, of course. We never sold El Burro. We sold the other farms, lower elevation farms, because we already had the experience of the Specialty Coffee Association of America. Back then, that was the name of now it's SCA, whatever, SCA. It was ACAA. And we knew that they were looking for, higher end coffees. And of course, even when we were exporting commercial coffee, our buyers used to cup the coffee and say, well, I like this one. And higher elevation coffee always shine. So we kept this farm, we kept El Burro, we sold the lower elevation farms. And we started planting all these type of other crops that I told you about. I was still in the coffee business.
And you're planting them here at Elida, and you're planting
in Elida,
them
we were cutting trees down to plant vegetables.
Okay,
and we were planting them in El Burro too, and we were planting them even in Los Naranjos, where I was born. That was a 2.5 hectare farm, and we were planting them there. And during the crisis, also before we sold the farm in Palmira to the Peterson, we had areas where we were planting also, oranges to export, work, things like that, like navel oranges. We couldn't get any of that to work.
And the idea was to diversify away from coffee into other cash crops.
Into other cash crops. So I tell you how it started. So when the coffee crisis started, it was after the United States decided to, stay away from the International Coffee Organization coffee agreement that was like the consuming countries, especially the rich countries, Canada, US, Europe, they used to buy at a set price. There was a bottom and a top price from producers that were members of the International Coffee Organization. Back then, the Eastern European, it was communist back then, were not members of the ICO, but many coffee growing countries were members of the ICO.
Okay.
And consuming countries were members of ICO. So the consuming members, they say, okay, let's make an agreement, international coffee agreement. We're going to pay you guys this price between whatever, $1.20 and $1.50, but you are limited to the number of kilos that you can export. So Panama produces 200,000, you will only get in that price range, I don't remember, 60%. Same with Brazil, same with the other countries. But the United States decided to get away from that agreement, and the price collapsed right away, down to 46 a pound, and our cost of production was like $1. And it was 50 cents, 60 cents, 46 cents. So that's when the crisis started. And what did the United States decide to do? They decided to help the producers of coffee in Central America, starting from Guatemala to Panama. And what they formed was they hired a company, Monix International. Monix International set up main offices in Guatemala, and they went around Central America, and they say, okay, look, the market is looking for example, in the lowlands, we're not in the lowlands, but to give you an example, rambutan, mangosteen, they're looking for lychee, and they used to bring seeds. The higher, where they're looking for asparagus, many vegetables, Vidalia, sweet onions. They're looking for also artichoke, raspberries, blackberries, and they used to bring seeds. They used to bring help. They used to pay for an office called GREXPAN, Gremial de Exportadores de Productos No Tradicionales de Panamá, Guild of non-traditional agricultural export, traditional banana, whatever. These were non-traditional, so we started working on that and started planting, but we couldn't make the windows because the windows for Central America were easier.
The windows in terms of seasonality?
And seasonality. So the window was for Vidalia onions when Georgia was not producing. So if you go to Nicaragua, they had, where they dry coffee, Sebaco, they used to plant onions beautiful. Here we have hills like crazy.
Yeah.
And then they used to hit the windows, and then when we came into the window, the price was going down, and the sparrow, everything was like that. So we said, well, why don't we do this? It was GREXPAN, Guild of Non-Traditional Agricultural Exporters of Panama. We decided to meet Ricardo Poiner, Hunter's father, Jimmy Tillman, he was also board member. Tony Vasquez, he's the father of the Don Pepe. He passed away, but he was a member. And then a bunch of us decided to say, why don't we do a commission of specialty coffee? Specialty coffee is growing in the United States. We hear about the Specialty Coffee Association of America. They're looking for good coffees. We know that they went to Guatemala because somebody told us. They never came to Panama. Panama was not known for growing coffee. And then we decided to form the Commission on Specialty Coffee. So we started calling other people to see if they wanted to join Gregspan. We call Price. You know that we are doing this in Gregspan. He knew about Gregspan. Private Price knows everything that is going on here in Panama. So he said, okay. So he met with us, and Price said, Comisión de Café Especial, the Commission on Specialty Coffee. Why don't you form the Specialty Coffee Association of Panama right away? So in that moment, we formed the Specialty Coffee Association of Panama, late 1996, 7 of us. And then that's how it started. And that's how we started looking for the market. Then this is what we did. We formed the association, and we knew that was in September or so. We said, you know what we can do? Let's go to Sintercafe. Every year, I don't know if they still hold, they say a conference in Costa Rica. Okay. It's called Sintercafe. In November, we went to Sintercafe, and we met with the board of directors and the executive director of the SCA. And we asked them, hey, you know what? We just formed an association. We know that you're going to have a conference and expo in New Orleans, and we want to participate, but we don't have money to pay for the booth. He says, it's free. Come over. So we just work on the design and all that. So we went there with the design, and that's how we started. And from there on, we haven't stopped.
This is the SCAA.
It was Specialty Coffee Association of America, CAA.
Happening in New Orleans in 1997?
I think it was early 1998.
98, okay.
If I remember correctly. That's when we started. And you know what Price told us? A bunch of us who went there, my brothers, I said, guys, come here, guys. This is what we need to do. Every time there is one of those conferences that Cole is going to talk about, specialty coffee or competition, you go there, you raise your hand, ask any question. You say, hey, I'm from Panama. I want to ask you something. Yes, in Panama, mention Panama. So talk about Panama. And we did that. And we did it in many of the conferences. And then at the end...
I see you still doing that today.
Yeah. And that's because it was Price's idea. And Price said, Price became friend. For a while, Price, a couple of years later, Price was member of the board of the SCAA.
Okay.
So Price said, hey, how many people from Panama? So many people from Panama every time. I'm in one of those talk shows, the conferences. Somebody from Panama asked a question. It was all the same guy going around. And then we started working on that. Then we started with the competition. And then we got a letter from the president of the SCAA that the president was Linda Smithers. She wrote a letter. We approved the new Best of Panama competition that is going to be held in Panama in such a day. And then we started inviting, importers, like the Paragon coffee, green coffee importers, mainly from the United States. As a matter of fact, back then from Canada, there was a company called Duet, something like Duet. So we invited a bunch of people, importers like that, for the competition, and some roasters too. And then that's how the competition started. And 4 years later, we started with the auction.
4 years later, that would have been early 2000s now.
Yeah, early 2000, like 2001 or so is the first auction.
What would the BOP, what would that have looked like the first year? Can you recall what the evaluation process looked like, and then what the awards were?
Okay. The first year, it was in the fairground of Boquete.
Okay, yeah, on the other side of the bridge there.
On the other side of the bridge.
Yeah.
So we were using to roast the coffee a perforated drum Jacob's burn, direct frying, roasting the samples there.
Okay.
And then we were heating water in a big tank, and we had a thermometer monitoring the water temperature, and have the tables that had the Lazy Susan, whatever. And then we had the proper cups because we got the cups from somebody who printed the cup for us and all that stuff. So we didn't even know how to roast samples for a competition. So there was a guy from the US, from Wisconsin, who came earlier as a volunteer, and he roasted the samples for us. And then the competition was like, the coffee was any coffee, anything. Okay, this coffee is dry, let's bring this coffee and put it in the competition.
You wouldn't have like a selection process? You wouldn't really...
We didn't know how to cup coffee. We were just studying the year before when we got the sample roaster. So we were just, all of us, like the founder, Hans Collins, Marcos Moreno, Hunter's father, Tony Vasquez, Price, and all the people started adding up to the membership. Ricardo Cohen and myself, the 7 founders, more people started coming, people who were coffee people, So we said, so how do we roast samples? And then Hans Collins, he was running Elida, they were the owners. Hans says, in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mira, I have seen a sample roaster there. They never use it. And there was a guy from Boquete who was the Vice Minister of Agriculture, Manuel Miranda. So Manuel Miranda, we said, Manuel, you know that you have a sample roaster, a Jacobs Point sample roaster, some cupping tables and spike-tune and whatever in the office of the Minister of Agriculture here in Boquete, but you're not using it. So he said, you need it? Yes, we need it for the association. We explain everything to him. It's from Boquete. As a matter of fact, some of the farms that Altieri bought were from Manuel Miranda. He's the grandfather of one of the Altieri's daughters. Okay?
Okay, there's a link. There's a link to everything.
So this is what happened. So when the Altieri daughter married Manuel Miranda's son, a few years later, Manuel got sick, whatever. So Altieri bought this farm here in Callejon.
Yeah.
The one up there, it was agriculture. So he bought that farm from Manuel. But anyways, back then, there was no Altieri, there was no Finca Sofia, there was no Finca Deborah, there was nobody, only Boqueteñans like me. So we asked Manuel, yes, Manuel, we formed the association. Manuel also had coffee. We formed the association. We want to see if we can get that sample roaster for you. He said, take it. It's yours. It's donated. Take it. We don't even know how to roast. So anyways, so we started learning, and everything was, so what coffee could we submit? We didn't even roast the samples.
Right.
So we submitted anything that looking green, looks good. Let's submit it.
No selection of varietal.
No selection.
And at that point, everything is washed.
Everything was washed, yes.
Yeah.
Everything was washed up until 2005 or so, 5 or 6.
Wow.
After the Geisha.
Right.
That's when we started submitting naturally.
So when did cupping become part of your practice? In the 90s?
Yes. Well, so when we got the sample roaster, so this is something interesting that helped us a lot. There is a guy called Mario Serracin. Mario Serracin now works for the Rogers family. So he's a colleague of Hunter Tenman.
Okay.
So Mario, the way Mario got into coffee was like this. Mario went to the Zamorano school in Honduras. He was with Ricardo Cohen, and he was very good friend with Graciano, and with a friend of mine too, but Graciano was also in Zamorano. So Ricardo is a couple of years younger than Graciano, but they were in Zamorano from Panama. Zamorano is the agriculture school in Honduras.
Yeah, one of the best in the world.
Yes, exactly. So Mario was there. So Mario, after he graduated, he came back to Boquete to work on whatever he was doing, onions or whatever, agriculture. Not coffee. Coffee didn't make any sense. So Ricardo went to UF, okay, to get a master's degree after Zamorano. And then Ricardo tells Mario, why don't you get a master's degree here in UF? Mario said, but I don't have any money to go there. So somehow Mario got a grant from UF, and Mario moved to UF, and he worked there, and he's very smart. And he worked there, and then he started doing some research, and he started working for Epcot Center in Orlando, working on their greenhouses, very sophisticated. And then, of course, Mario was a coffee grower, like everybody here in Panama. Anybody in Panama that you meet older than 50, 55 has been in coffee. His family or him, for sure. Okay, no doubt about it. Okay, so Mario was into coffee too in Palmira. So then somebody offered him, I don't know how, to get a PhD in plant pathology in coffee in Hawaii, University of Hawaii.
Okay, wow.
So Mario moved to study a PhD in the University of Hawaii, and then he started helping the coffee growers of Hawaii, because the coffee growers of Hawaii were having problems with their typical. The trees were dying, whatever, they were sick and all that. And Mario, remember, he went to Zamorano, he got a master's in UF. He was already, very much involved into research and all that. He started doing research. He said, it's nematodes. The problem that you have is nematodes.
Okay.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we craft into Liberica, Robusta, whatever?
Yeah, graft on a different rootstock.
They were grafting the typicals, and the coffee growers of Hawaii said, no, Mario, you're going to kill our qualities. So Mario, if you go to Hawaii and you ask any coffee grower, Greenwald, whatever, Mario Saracen. They don't know Mario Saracen. They love Mario Saracen. So Mario Saracen, 7 years to get his PhD. During that time, Pete Rogers was running the Rogers family group. He says, Mario, you want to work for us? That was after 7 years. But when Mario was there, they were doing the Hawaiian, they started with the Hawaiian copying competition, all that. So Mario, Hawaii is doing a coffee competition. What size cup do they use? This size cup that they use. How do they roast coffee? So Wilford, you do this, do this. Mario used to come on vacation here, and then he used to help us with the sample roaster. He recommended exactly what Hawaii was using, what size cup, water temperature, how many grams per cup, all that stuff. So Mario was like our advisor. And there was a lady, her name was Carvalho. She was very famous copper. She was a professor in the University of Hawaii. So University of Hawaii had a lot of money for anything, for coffee. So he used to get help from the professors at the University of Hawaii. So Mario started helping us on everything, from roasting to everything else. So when you start roasting, and then at the end you start, this is dark, but it's okay. It's too light. It's still a learning experience, right? So Mario was a key point for us, the coffee growers of Panama, specialty coffee growers of Panama. SCAP, he was a SCAP member to help us with the, with the technical part of it. That's when we started roasting and copying. Let's say not earlier than 1998, 1999, when we started copying.
And so that's cupping specifically for BOP, specifically for the competition, or that's cupping here in your lab, just generally speaking?
I didn't have a sample roaster. So look, when that first sample roaster that SCAP had, everybody started watching that sample roaster. Ricardo says, the farm next door, Arcapal was owned by one guy who was 3 times president of Panama, and then his wife was the president of Panama.
Okay.
They have a sample roaster. I've seen it. So Ricardo asked, Mireya, she was a president. He's a friend of hers still. She's still alive. What are you doing with that sample roaster? Can I buy it from you, or can I borrow it from you? So Ricardo got his sample roaster. Later, they had a sample roaster. They started using the sample roaster. And then the Ruiz got a sample roaster, like a Pinalense. But I was still using SCAP sample roaster for a while, until I roasted there for maybe 5 years myself. And then I got my own sample. We got our own sample roaster, and then we brought it to the mill. But I used to, many of us, not only me, many of us, many of the main names that I mentioned and more names, we used to come in sample roast at SCAP until we decided to buy a sample roaster. Cool. A sample roaster was, let's say, a Pinalense from Brazil was like
$10,000.
No, it wasn't that much. It was like $4,000 or $5,000. It was like $4,000 or $5,000. So when we decided to buy that machine, we were bringing a dryer from Pinalense. So they put the sample roaster there. It didn't cost more than $6,000. So more people started buying sample roaster and bringing them to their own, mill, their own lab. And that's how everybody started sample roasting to cup their coffees. And of course, sample roasting and cup it for the BOP.
Right.
So it was for those 2 reasons.
And so that became a normal practice. You would sample roast all your coffees, taste the whole crop.
It became a normal practice for some people.
For some people.
Other people were strict.
Some people still don't cut their own coffees.
Don't cut their coffees.
Yeah.
And back then, to convince somebody to spend 1 hour roasting and then the next day 1 hour cupping, when they had to check out the pruning and check out the fertilization and check out this and check out that.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. You know, people didn't do it. But eventually we said, hey, it's like I tell people. This is what I tell people. You need to cup your coffees, because it's like if you work in a library or in a bookstore and you don't know how to read, it's the same thing with specialty coffee. If you don't know how to cup, it's like working in a library and you don't know how to read.
Right.
So people started learning this, and now more people, cup their coffees. But back then, so the growth was like this until they started seeing the prices of coffee, especially after Geisha. Not even because nobody had Geisha, it's still like this. And then when people started planting Geisha at 1,000 meters back
All
then.
of a sudden,
I want to get that price. I'm going to plant Geisha at 1,000 meters, at 1,200 meters. Oh, and then, of course, Geisha is known that it develops its flavors at higher elevation. But everybody, when Geisha was discovered, was, Geisha, plant at any elevation.
Plant it in the backyard.
And I'll be very successful.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Tell me about Geisha.
Right. Hey, that's a good question. Really good question. Tell me about the first time Geisha was used to win the Best of Panama. What was that memory like for you? How did that change everything going forward? Was that a moment for you that you went, oh wow, everything shifts? Did that take a little while to kind of register?
When was the first time I cupped Geisha? I mean, I knew about Típica, I knew about Catuay because we have Típica and Catuay here. And we have submitted Típica and Catuay to the Best of Panama in the years before.
That would have been everything you're producing here? Is Catuay and Típica?
Only Catuay and Típica.
Okay.
So one day, Ricardo Coiner tells me, Wilford, you know what? Daniel has a coffee, Daniel Peterson, that tastes totally different. And we're going to cup it in my lab on Saturday. You want to come? So my brother was here, my brother Lenny, you know Pat, but I don't think that you know Lenny. So Lenny was here and I said, Lenny, you want to come? Let's cup some coffees at Ricardo's place in Cotowa that Daniel is going to bring a sample. I'm going to bring one too, and the other one is going to bring one. You used to do it like that.
Okay.
Bring samples from everybody and cup them.
So Wilfried, tell me a little bit about the discovery of Geisha, how that changed everything for Panama. What was that moment like for you, and when did you first get the opportunity to taste Geisha and know that it was? Did you know it was the future?
Okay.
Did you know it would be?
Not at all. The first time I cupped Geisha, I didn't even know what Geisha was. As a matter of fact, it was like this. One day Ricardo says, Wilford, you want to cup on Saturday? It was midweek. So bring your one or two of your lots, and Daniel is going to bring one that I cup, he says, and it's different, Wilford. It's something different, and Daniel is interesting to see feedbacks. So he's going to bring it on Saturday, and we're going to keep some of mine or whatever. And then, so that day I went to the cupping table, and we cupped the coffees blind, and then everybody noticed that was a different cup profile. To tell you the truth, Cole, I had no idea that was a good coffee. It tasted totally different. So by tasting different, does it make it good? I don't know. I have no idea. Remember, that year was 2004, was like the 5th Best of Panama. And remember, the previous Best of Panama, yes, there were good coffees, but they were not the best of any farm. Maybe yes. So,
and the profile, just really quickly, the profile before Geisha showed up is what? Chocolatey, nutty, round, maybe some like plum sugar.
Exactly. Like a nice wash Catuay. Okay. Nothing like, wow, like good coffee. And then when we cup that coffee, and then we open the coffees, and then I say, well, this is mine, this is Daniel. Wow. And I brought a good lot because it was a nice wash from 1800 something. I think that La Esmeralda, El Velo is like, that lot was 1600 meters. I said, well, okay. So that was the first time I cupped that coffee, and then came the DOP. And of course, the rest is history. Ever since the coffee was ground the first time around, the judges, international judges, just couldn't, hide their preference.
Right.
They had to because they were judges, but you can notice. And then water, cupping, and then next round, and then all the way to the end. As a matter of fact, I think that if we look at because it's in the site of the Best of Panama, every single, I don't think that the name that they gave was Geisha. I don't remember. Probably yes, but I don't think so. I think that they call it La Esmeralda Especial or something like that. And then when that coffee, Saturday evening, pricing ceremony, dinner, and then when everybody wanted to know what coffee that was. And then at the end, so first place, La Esmeralda, And I said, Daniel, is that the coffee we caught? And then I told some of the guys around, I said, wow, that's a Geisha. That's amazing. I didn't know there was something like that. And then the guy next to me, Tito Vargas, said, I have geisha in my farm, but I didn't know geisha was good. I have geisha in my farm. And I said, do you have seeds? He said, I can get seeds from you. So I got seeds the next day, 2004, and then I planted geisha in 2005. And then from there on, it's history. But everybody planted geisha. 1,200, we planted geisha, 1,200 meters. Everybody, 1,100 meters, big extension of geisha, 1,000 meters. And then when that started producing, of course, at lower elevation is 3 years, not more than 4. It wasn't shining. Yeah, wow, geisha is
It's just okay.
It's okay, whatever. So, but that's that's then the auction came, and the auction was also something like shocking. I don't know if I don't remember if Rachel told you what happened when coffee was put in the auction after the BOP.
It set a price record at the time at like 20 some
but
odd
you know what
dollars.
happened, right? The first few minutes when the auction opened, online auction, of course. So we were used to 4 years of Catuais, típica, whatever, Caturras. So the auction opens. Somebody hits, I think that that we put the bottom price $1 a pound, 101, 1 cent. The other coffee, 2 cents, 103, 104, 5. So at the end of let's give the example of the second year, which we won the BOP, and then in the auction, after 6 years of auction, it went from $1, like 2 cents, 3 cents, 1 cent, 2 cents, 3 cents, 1 cent, 1 cent. 6 hours later, $2.37. $2.37, 1 cent at a time, sometimes 2 cents at a time, the bidding.
A lot at that point is 300 pounds.
Depends. It was different sizes, not one specific. The maximum was, I think that back then was 150 pounds, the maximum. But it was only 1 cent.
1 cent at a time.
Okay. So after almost 6 hours, it went up to $2.37 a pound of a Catuai from Elida. Okay, so 2004 auction. The site opens, 8 minutes later, the site closes. Hey, what happened? It went blank. It went like froze. So we called Malcolm, which was the guy from the SCAA, running the auction. He also ran the auction the previous years. We said, Malcolm, what happened to the auction? Malcolm said, hold on, have patience. There is a hacker, but I'm going to find the hacker. I had to put it on hold until I found the hacker. Then a few minutes later, it opened. And then he said, Malcolm, you found the hacker? He said, there is no hacker. Somebody bid $10. The first, not 1 cent, not 2 cents, not $10. Right there, on that coffee, right there. He wanted that coffee, $10 a pound. And then he thought it was a hacker. Nobody would ever think that
coffee would sell
like that. So it ended up at 21 plus a pound.
And then is it the next year that it went to triple digits in the auction?
3 years later.
And it went to $100 or so a pound?
And then it froze again, and Malcolm says, who in the right mind would ever think that the coffee was going to go three digits?
Crazy.
But you know what happened? That was good news and bad news. You know what the bad news is? The bad news is that the auction just stopped at 3 hours plus.
Okay.
In none of the Catuais, Caturras, Típicas, which were the other, only one lot was geisha, or maybe two, or two geishas. The other lots were all sold below the previous year's price. Because you start bidding after 3 hours, and then when you start, and then I want that Catuai, I don't want to bake the geisha, but I like this one.
Right.
And then you start bidding and you raise the price.
Right. But one thing goes up far, and then everything else starts to do this.
They didn't have those other coffees didn't have a chance to, because the auction that year ended up on the fund. So call, how much? $2, whatever.
Oh, and they're calling each other back and forth.
Yeah, the administrator started calling them.
Okay.
And so that's how but it was finished. The software couldn't make it. Obsolete right there. So that's the other interesting story about how geisha, have done things that nobody expected.
Right. I love the image you just painted of the one cupping table, and there's one coffee that you go, oh wow, this is different, because we just cupped, and we had nine Catuais on the table, and then one very, very, very delicious.
But you know that it was a delicious geisha.
Immediately it was like, oh wow,
cool.
Hello.
How do you know? Let's say Let's go 21 years ago. How did you know that that was a good coffee? Like, would clients like that?
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think it's a generational thing. I think
Yeah.
I love that profile that we just had. This geisha was like jasmine, there was rose, there was some bubble gummy candy type of sweetness to it. I really loved it. I don't think my mom would like it.
Well, you know what?
You know, she would have liked the chocolatey, nutty, katwai, with a little bit of fruit, sugar, sweetness in it. But
Many people don't like it. So, but if people like, people have like, of course, I'm 65. People like me, when we cup coffee all the time, and I already have the palate for, good tasting coffees.
yeah,
I know when a good coffee is on the table when I cup it, because this is a good coffee, my memory shines and everything else. And I know when the coffee is just, I want to have that coffee in the morning with, I don't want to have that coffee in the morning, but many people like that. There are many people like that. I don't want geisha. No, don't give me geisha.
right. No, I think there's preference, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I think less people drinking geisha means more for you and I.
exactly.
So at what point, like we're looking up here at the slope of Elida going up, at what point do you decide that you're not really a coffee producer now, you're a geisha producer? When do you fully transition? Of course, you have lots of katwai, but your focus today is on producing, correct me if I'm wrong, your focus today is on producing the best geisha in the world.
100%.
And when did you make that decision and commitment?
Okay, so when did we make that decision and commitment? When geisha was discovered in the West of Panama. Of course, I was working for my father. I was not in charge. And my dad, of course, we have been competing for 4 years. And so my father said, wow, a geisha. Let me talk to Pachi Serracen. Pachi Serracen is the guy who brought the geisha. He was working for the Minister of Agriculture. He brought the geisha from Costa Rica to Panama.
Okay.
And he started distributing the plants
Yeah.
all over. He gave some to my dad, to Lerida, to Suarez, to the different farms, to La Esmeralda, Jaramillo, back before the Petersons bought it. And people just abandoned the geisha, like my father. He abandoned the geisha because it doesn't make sense to produce geisha. It's just a tree that is not
doesn't
convenient. Doesn't produce much.
much.
The root system, whatever, you have to fertilize it more, take more care of that. And then he said, Pachi told my dad, I have geisha, I have geisha. He says, at 1,000 meters, where still they have the house there, at 1,400 meters, where they have another farm, and then they bought another. He gave geisha seeds to my father. I got geisha seeds from Tico. My father got geisha seeds from Pachi, and then we started planting geisha. And from there on, when we planted geisha, we planted in land that was not used for coffee. So listen to this. When I started in the farm, working in the farm, well, not when I started working in the farm, ever since the farms here in Panama in general were planted, people did not plant coffee above, let's use an easy number, 1,800, even below 1,800 meters.
Okay.
Higher, takes longer, more disease, less yield per tree or per hectare.
Yeah.
So they used to, my family and everybody's family used to plant instead vegetables, fruits, vegetables, carrots, onions, potatoes, cabbage, blackberries, sweet tomatoes, no coffee. So we took Torre lot and we planted it with geisha instead of onions. We're not going to plant any more onions here. We're going to plant geisha here.
Torre is right at 1,800?
Yes, it goes to 1825. It's 1800, 1825, but there was no coffee there. We started planting above where coffee was.
Okay, yeah.
We had Typica, and then we started planting geishas. We planted geisha, and something interesting came. When we started harvesting geisha, we didn't have enough for the BOP, so we started selling it to Verve Coffee for a couple of years. When we started submitting geisha to the BOP, it was probably one of the highest geisha farms in Boquete, or in Panama probably, and Torre lot won the best of Panama. Torre lot has won the best of Panama a few times already. As a matter of fact, 1 year, we have never, floral variety. Katwa is not floral, so it's difficult to win. But we won in 2018 Geisha Wash and Geisha Natural category. And then 2019 we get Geisha Wash and Geisha Natural category. And we said, why did we win Geisha Wash and Geisha Natural above all the other farms? And of course, my reason is that we were at 1825. And so who else had Geisha back then? Makata had Geisha 1,500, 1,600. Esmeralda had Geisha. I don't think that they had reached 1800 yet. Now they have 2050 this year. They knock everybody off the stage. Pachi Serracin, Francisco Serracin, they had Geisha below 1600 meters. And there were a bunch of others, the ones that I told you, Tito Vargas had a Geisha, he had 1450, and a bunch of other Geishas. We won because I think that we had the highest back then in Torre, highest elevation Geisha planted. And then this is what happened. So when we saw that Geisha was growing good at 1800 meters, 2 years later we saw the trees, hefty trees, shining good, we planted 75. In 75 is doing good. So we have a ribbon like this, big ribbons. 75, 8 hectares. From 1875 to 1900, 6 hectares, 1900 to 2000, 5 hectares, 2000 to 2. So we see the development, keep on seeing the development. Nobody in their right mind thought that coffee could produce at those levels. It's very difficult. Did you hear Daniel telling how long it took at 2050 to produce?
13 years.
Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. But you have the farm, and then from there on, the family started buying farms in other places, 160 meters on this side, another one that we bought, and we just bought another one right in the mountain range. Northernmost coffee farm of Panama, right in the mountain range. It is producing, it is going to produce. I just took a sample and gave it to, it's 3 years old, and some beans are producing. So yes, I got into Geisha because, you know what, I think this is probably a wrong statement, but I like to use it to make people understand. I think that we have, nothing is perfect, but I think that we have the perfect terroir for Geisha. Microclimates, biodiversity, the mountains with the beneficial microorganisms, bacteria, yeast, volcanic soils, and high elevation, all combined. Why not? In fact, I sell Geisha seeds. I have sold Geisha seeds all over the place. Nepal, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Philippines, all Central America, Haiti, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Venezuela. Just got so and I have orders for more Geisha seeds, and I don't have Geisha seeds all over the world. I have sold Geisha seeds and good Geisha seeds, and so pretty much you know why I'm so much into Geisha? Because I love Geisha. Every morning I drink pour over 20 grams of Geisha wash and one of Geisha natural. You know what Wilford Jr. says? My son, Wilford Jr. My father don't think that Catuai is coffee. Maybe because I love the coffee a lot. And of course you get much better price.
Yeah,
and people come here to look for Geisha. Catuai, yeah, well, Catuai is nice. We have a good market for Catuai, whatever. But more people come for the Geisha. Yeah.
Right. And so for you, Geisha has changed everything in coffee.
No, Geisha has changed like everything unimaginable. So I give you an example. When we won the Best of Panama with the Catuai in 2000 and 2002, it was sold for $2.37 a pound, $5.22 a kilo in a Peso Panama, $5.22 a kilo. Last year, Peso Panama, our Geisha from Vuelta, back two days like that.
Yeah.
It was sold for over $10,000, 2,000 times more.
Yeah.
2,000 times more in 20 years. So that's 100% higher. What industry reaches those prices? Of course, it's very little. It was only 20 kilos. Okay.
It's 20 kilos, but still 10,000.
The other 20 kilos of first place sold also for $10,000, and it has gone up ever since.
Right.
I think that 1 year went down, but it came back again higher and higher. What is the limit? Is everybody's speculation and nervousness every year. Every year we get nervous, like, are we gonna break record again? I'm gonna break record again. And you want me to tell you?
I'm gonna ask you the question
later on or now.
Do you want to talk about it now? Let's talk about it now.
A little bit of history. When my father was selling his commercial coffees 50 years ago, whatever, 40 years ago, that he was in charge of selling, most of the coffee was sold through Costa Rican brokers. Those brokers were mainly Germans who lived in Costa Rica or German descendants, and they used to come here. When I was a kid, I used to go there, cup the samples here, whatever. So there was this German guy from Costa Rica He was with my dad, and my dad tells, this is a bit different, but my dad asked the guy, the German guy, what do you think that the price in the coffee, sugar, and cocoa chains New York City market will do this year? And the guy said, you might as well ask that guy, he might have a better answer than me. So you might as well ask that guy who's there. We don't know, but I think that it's going to break records.
Okay.
All three are going to break records for several reasons.
You think this year all three will break records?
All three.
Okay.
All Esmeraldas, first place in varietas, and the two first place in the
Geishas and then the varietal.
all of them.
Okay, I've got a few questions on that.
Okay.
One, do you think the same person is going to buy all three?
Okay. Let me give you another thing. Why is it going to break records? I think the best known farm in the world is for Geisha is La Esmeralda, especially in Asia. You go to China.
Yeah.
I'm going to in 3 weeks to 6 cities in China. I've been to China now in 3 weeks. I've been to China 6 times in 2 years. I've been to many places in China, 15 cities. Everywhere you go in coffee, specialty coffee, everybody knows Esmeralda. Esmeralda have had Geisha since they discovered 21 years ago, and they have had their own auction for 18 years, sending samples. Everybody knows them. Amazing coffee, outstanding coffee all the time. They do a good job. They are very well known.
Yeah.
Nobody buys a Geisha from La Esmeralda. First place, you will have difficulty selling it.
Of course.
The same guy will share for sure. It will be shared. So if we talk about the same guy, the leader is of course Sasa. Taro and all his influence and all that. But Taro is going to have competition from other people.
Of course, yeah.
Like this,
Yeah.
I think for first place, whatever. That is more difficult than predicting that it's going to break records.
We have to put a prediction out there. How high is high? The record currently in BOP is 10,000 and change, maybe 10,013.
Yeah, 10,000.
The
2018.
10,018.
Uh-huh.
The record for pricing, I believe, is in your personal auction, 13,500, right around there. So do you think their geishas are going to go for 15? Do you think they could go to 20?
Let's say that it's going to for 15,000.
15,000. Both washed and natural, same price? Or
I think they're the same price.
Same price? Okay.
I think they're the same price.
And what about the Laurina? Does the Chirroso from last year hold the record for?
Yeah, it dropped for over $2,000 a kilo.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to drop off the Chirroso. Now, is Laurina so exotic? Probably not. It's not like one of those, out of the wild Chichogallos or Chirroso that is less known. Laurina is more and more known, but as far as varietals, I think that the better person that studies varietal quite a bit is Hunter.
Of course.
He studies varietal. He asks, I don't have varietal. One day, Daniel asked me, so did you submit any varietal? That was last year, I think, in the year before. I said, no, I did not. Why? I said, because every time I submit varietal, I have to go pick up the boxes and bring it back to the people walk around, hey, they rejected your varietal. That happened to me this year again. I said, let's submit varietal. So, we changed the rules a little bit.
You get one.
Yeah. I don't have to submit varietal. I said, let's submit some varietal. I don't care. Let's submit varietal. And we submitted varietal, and of course it came back, and I have it. As far as varietal, I'm not the right person. I study more the Geisha. When I go, I'm gonna be, doing many presentations throughout China with our Geisha. And people talk about the Geisha, and they come back and they talk about the Geisha they tasted from whatever, from Guatemala, from Costa Rica, or from Panama mainly. So we talk about Geisha. I'm not that familiar with how the varietas move. Will that coffee go? Will it go to China? Or yes, probably not. I don't know.
Right. I'm super fascinated to see if the same person comes through and buys all three number ones.
For sure it's going to be shared.
I think for sure it'll be shared, but there's somebody with the ego out there, the ego and the wallet, that says, I want all three.
Yes.
Right? And they're going to chase them down like they're...
Yes, probably. You know what? I think that at least up to the last bit, Taro and his group, Sasa,
will be there fighting.
Of
course. Can you tell me about your experience at BOP? I remember the final day. I don't know if it was after the natural table or after the washed table. I sat and had lunch with you. We were at a table together, and I remember some of the remarks you made, and for one of the tables, you knew that your coffee was not on the table. So I guess that would have been natural.
Exactly, the natural.
The washed, you had a prize. So on the natural table, I guess was the first table in the morning. But what were those coffees like for you? They set records, obviously, in pricing. Was that...
No, I tell you.
Or not in pricing, pardon me. Set records in scoring.
So remember, when the National Jury Cups, we cup all 41 geishas. There was 40 in one category, 41 geishas. We don't do a final, so we don't get to compare.
You
all
taste
of
them one time and then off they go.
But when we taste underneath you guys, the judges, the local
in the gallinera.
Yeah. So remember, the varietals were before the geishas, the day before. So we were copying the varietals, and then I said, of course, Hunter, this probably doesn't taste like your Chiroso. It tastes different than the Chiroso. And then somebody said, that's more like a Laurina, Esmeralda Laurina. And then, of course, the people over there copying and all that. And then the next day comes, and then I say, wow, this Geisha is amazing, man. It's not ours for sure. Wilford, this is not our coffee.
I think that's the same remark you gave me at lunch. This coffee is amazing. It's not ours for sure.
I told Alexandra when we were copying, just 40 minutes after copying and trying to get everything, and I said, Alexandra, next to Rachel on purpose, so Rachel will hear. Alexandra, you know how to add up the Panama Cup? Alexandra said, why? Because you already have yesterday's 4 points for the first place, and you have 8 points now. Don't make me nervous, Alexandra. Don't make me nervous. You know how to add Panama Cup, right? First place, Geisha gets 8
points and varietal is 4.
And then 8th place in Geisha gets 1 point. So 8, 7, 6, and then varietal is 4, 3, 2, 1. So I said, Alexandra, you have 8 plus 4 is 12. Don't make me nervous, he says. So the next day, of course, down in the gallinero, we are allowed to comment and to talk about our side. They change from table to table. And then you can tell that the natural and the watch geishas,
they're from the same farm.
The same farm.
You could absolutely tell they're from the same farm.
From the same farm. So we knew.
Right.
I told Hunter. So when we went to the deliberation on the varietals, I say, Hunter, sorry, man. Look, Laurina pitch. You got second place. When they were calling like the varietals in the pricing ceremony, third place. So third place, whatever. So the third place, you got it later about the third place, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so third place. Then I said, Hunter, get up. Second place, get up. Hunter was saying, I know. So Hunter got up, but I was still. When they called the first place, you're never sure. If you are sure on who is going to win, it could have been Sophia, whatever. Yeah, it was an hour, the natural. What they call the wash first, yes. So of course we got 5th place. So and then when they would have got called the wash first place, we're still not 100% sure. But when they called Esmeralda, I said Esmeralda won this one and won the natural.
Yeah.
Wilford and I were sitting next to each other. They got all 3.
In the awards ceremony after the Laurina one, I tapped Nolan on the shoulder. I said, Nolan, did you bring your broomstick? What do you mean, man? Huh? I said, did you bring your broomstick? It's going to be a sweep.
You told that?
And then the geisha went, and I said, Nolan, broomstick.
You knew that?
I had a feeling whoever won the first geisha was going to win the second geisha. I knew that they were going to be from the same farm. And I thought there could be 5, maybe 4 or 5 farms. One would be, of course, Esmeralda. One would be you, Graciano. I think the 3 of you share very similar terroir on that part of the barber, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I thought Sophia is for sure. Sophia's got to be in play. Last year, both of their coffees, both geishas, were my first in terms of scoring on the final round. And then I thought Los Cenisos. I'm not very familiar with Los Cenisos coffees, but I know from what I hear, they're big, floral, sweet, peachy type of coffees. And so I figured whoever wins the first geisha, that the natural category is going to win the wash category as well. And
yeah, I know. Yeah.
pretty unbelievable. I think for me, that was one of my first times really seeing terroir truly shine through and going in my head like, oh wow, these coffees, if they're not from the same place, I'll be shocked, right? They were just, the core flavors all the way through were pretty incredible. But let's move on a little bit from that. I want to talk about this wall behind us. And who was the handyman who built this wall? The drywalling is just so well done. The shelves are so flush. No, I'm making a joke. Tell me about these trophies. What does this mean?
Okay, so since we started submitting geishas to the POP, I think that I hold to 2024. I have to check now because the La Esmeralda got 2 first places. We have we have 6 first places.
Okay.
Geishas in the POP. And we got, of course, Panama Cups, yes, we have 4. La Esmeralda has 3. You know, there are 12 Panama Cups only. We got 4 out of 12. And you know how many, last year, 41 producers submitted coffee. 51 producers submitted coffee. 40 in Geisha, and before it was like 60. That is one thing that I really, look after. Of course, winning, everybody gets immense satisfaction on winning the POP because,
yeah, sure.
Of course, like POP were small coffee growers, we are very close to each other, even related to each other, even very close friends for many years. We work together and everything else. So of course you want to beat your friend.
You're competitive with each other. Your win is their win, and their win is your win. In the sense that prices go up and reputation goes up. And
everything. But and then so when we win the Panama Cup, or when we if you let's say if you are top, this year is 20. Last year before it was 18 geishas. Last year was 60. Top 18 that go to the auction among 60 geishas. You are doing very well.
Of course.
Very well. This year was less geishas, but I put my best. I didn't put my second best. Mm-hmm. Like Merada put its best, they didn't put the second best. So it's more or less the same kind of quality there. Okay. Their second best, Asiano put his best, first and second best. So we only had a chance to put our best geishas.
It's the best of Lamastus versus the best of Esmeralda versus the best of everybody.
And this year we got 5th place, which is very satisfactory. It's very, very good placing. You see people asking us, so you guys didn't do that good this year. We got 11th place in the Geisha Natural, still very well placed. And yes, I can tell you, it's something we didn't shine at. Like last year, we got 4th and 1st place in the Panama Cup. Right. 2 years before, we got the Panama Cup and we got 2nd and 2nd. And then, so we have been 2nd places and 3rd places many, many times. So yes, you can say that for us we went down, but it's not that we didn't have good coffee. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyways, and it's okay. It's what we want to win, but it's okay. It's competition. It's like that.
I think just in participation and to have this incredible shelf.
Yeah, we're very happy.
Get to go to the auction. Your coffees will go for very, very high prices. I'm sure that will be satisfactory too.
Yes, but going in the auction is, how do I explain this? Let's talk about our own private auction. When somebody pays $13,000, they have paid $13,500 last year for one of our geishas. That was last year. The year before, $13,000, and then the year before it was like 400. It was in pounds, so like $9,000 per in our private auction, and $10,000 for the best of Panama. When people pay those high prices, it's because they appreciate quality. If there was no quality, then they won't even pay for that. They won't even think about it. So these geishas that have broken our private auction records are aguacatillo. This year we're gonna submit more than one aguacatillo. We're gonna submit so we layer it. It's called the axis of elevation. We're gonna have aguacatillo wash 2,100 meters, 10 kilos. Then aguacatillo 2,060 meters. We're gonna have 1 natural, 110 kilos each.
Okay.
And then we go to wild aguacate. We don't have any more aguacatillo. We're not gonna break record this year. We don't think. because we have several aguacatillos. It's not rare, it's not scarce, it's not like, but if I get to let people know, because these aguacatillos, you have coffee for the aguacatillos.
Of course, yeah.
They are very, very good. And if people, get to taste more of our aguacatillos, of our huerta, like the cob, the aguacate, all around the world, for me, even if they pay 400 kilo and they say, wow, I love your coffee, like you said right here. When people say that, they say, wow, you feel, that you are doing a good job, they like the coffee, let's continue, let's buy the farm, let's plant it well, let's put more organic fertilizer, let's more take it, because it's a total satisfaction. Like it's when you hear a tennis player, those tennis players are, there was when Wimbledon just went by. They get so happy when they do well, I don't know how, they don't even know how much they're gonna make, and then sponsorship and then all this.
It's but the love of the game and then
the
whatever
satisfaction
comes after, right?
Doing something right, and people appreciating it is what fulfills anybody. Same as you know better than anybody in competition. You train the 3 first places, two in Japan, right? Yeah. No, the Japanese.
Yeah.
And the world champions and all that. So it's so satisfactory, when that guy is doing it right, and you are like suffering, and the time, and then the espresso, and then this, and then he forgot this. But no, that's not take any points off, and then he wins. You feel so satisfied, and you probably, for being world champion, somebody else that you train, it's so satisfactory. So that's our satisfaction. Now that we have more aguacatillo, and next year we're gonna have more, then we will probably have more, for commercial purposes, like we have the Vuelta Aguacate Torre, and then we're gonna have the other farm and the other farm and the other one, different crop profile, 5 farms in 3 different microclimates, maybe 4, all the way in the mountain range, the northernmost, and then the southernmost, different microclimate, different crop profile, and then you say, well, I want this, and this profile for my clients. So that's what satisfies you.
Right.
Yes, we make money, and like my wife says, every time we make money, you go and spend it. Like right now, one of the guys who was here, I'm gonna redo my whole wet mill, totally. Yes, every time you make money, you spend it.
That's what money's for.
Exactly. And then buy another farm, and then buy another farm. You know what I tell people? My 2 grandparents, I used to hang around, especially with my mother's grandfather, because my grandmother at the end was on this farm on Elida, her name was Elida. She died like many years after my grandfather on this side, but on my other side, my other grandfather, I used to hang around with him at the coffee farms, at Burro, whatever, everywhere. And I have grandkids. I want to leave a legacy, okay? And I think that this legacy is fulfilling, People love, coffee. People are satisfied when they do a good job producing coffee and processing coffee, and people coming and visiting and talking and, sharing happiness because of the cup and all that. So I need to leave a legacy. And the only way for me to leave a legacy, if I grab an opportunity to buy another farm. They are small farm. They are all small. The biggest one is 6 hectares. Trompo, the one that I just bought is 2 hectares. The other one, 4 hectares. So on. So it's small farm, but still, satisfactory to leave a legacy.
I think what you're describing is, and for me, what resonates in winning world championships, that's not the end, right? And that can't be the end. We look at life as like, here's where we want to be. I want to be the world champion. And I remember the first time that I worked with Boran, that we won the championship, and we all, the day after, 2 days later, we're like, what do we do now, right? None of us thought of what it looks like to get over the line. The grass is way greener over there. No, it's not. I got to water the grass over there just as much as I watered it over here. And it's like, it's all just part of the journey. And, it's satisfactory is the word you keep saying. It's like satisfactory that you produce incredible coffee, and 1 year Torre is the top coffee, and then you're pushing further. And I think, that's a big takeaway is nothing is the end game. Exactly. It's all about the journey and how we can keep going backward and appreciating that in 2024 and 2022 and 2018, and you can look and recollect on all those amazing moments that you had that led you to keep pushing the envelope, pushing the game and pushing the craft and pushing quality. I think it's very admirable to see that you are buying a 2-hectare farm over here, a 4-hectare farm over there, and literally raising the heights that coffee can go to.
And those are opportunities that come like once in a life, no, not in a lifetime, but once in a while.
Right.
And they are in remote areas where nobody wants that. Who's going to want to drive there?
Who's the crazy guy that's
Who's the
willing
crazy
to plant?
guy? But going back to what you said, in the World's Barista Championship or World Cup Championship or UOP, and I'm going to use by Peterson's word. Peterson is a real thinking guy. Bryce says, I'll give you bragging right for 1 year.
Yeah, right.
so let's not have the bragging right for 1 year.
I agree. You hold the title forever, but you kind of get 1 year to flaunt it, right?
Exactly.
Wilford, I want to be conscious of time, and I want to be conscious of your time. What does the future for you? What does the future of coffee hold? You're 65. How long do you plan to continue your triumphant energy and efforts around the world?
Do you want me to mention the same name again? I see during the harvesting season, this man, I will say the name at the end, in his big Ford pickup truck with wide mirrors, coming up to one of his farms, my neighbor up there, in the afternoons, bringing the truck full of coffee to the mill, 20 plus kilometers away. Nobody can take that job away from me.
Of course.
He's 89 years old.
I think he just turned 89 years old. Yeah.
I want to be like him.
Yeah.
Price Peterson.
I think when I grow up, I want to be like Price Peterson or Wilford Lamastus too.
And Price Peterson is such an amazing person, He remembers everything. And of course, Susan is the best, But yeah, I like to be like my father. He died when he was 89 years old, and he worked all the way until he was 88.
Wow.
He used to come to the mill every day. He was born, raised, and died here. It's not that he had the opportunity to, go somewhere else and live somewhere else. And on my mother's side and my grandfather's side, the same thing here in this town. Were born and raised, and they work up until no retirement, no going to play golf and retire playing golf or whatever, playing cards or whatever. It's, doing what they have done all their life, growing coffee.
Right.
I hope to be like that, and have my son work for Junior, continue the legacy, and my grandchild, who's coming in a couple of days, 2 grandchilds now, continue doing that, and that will satisfy me when I'm 89 years old.
And hopefully beyond that.
And hopefully beyond that, hopefully.
Incredible. Wilford, you're an incredibly inspiring person to many in our industry, myself included. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Paul.
I have had a great opportunity to be here in Panama and to cup with you however many times I've been in this lab now and kept with you this year. And it's always special. It's always a treat, especially when you put a really nice geisha on a Catuai table.
They put it. I didn't know. I thought I was going to cup Catuai.
It was great. It was a nice treat.
You want to tell you something, Cole? When I heard from the first person I heard from was Hunter that you were going to move to Panama. I said, Cole is going to move to Panama. That's good news for Panama. That's amazing news from Panama because I follow you. Not only do I follow you on your posts, your Instagram, and also sometimes you decide to put some, post where you tell people, hey guys, get going, be positive.
So I do those for myself, but I'm glad
those are good.
To others.
They reflect, and then that you are all over the place, doing coffees and then competition and then doing this. People like you we need here. That's why Boquete is like this. I don't know if I told you, Boquete is a community where we are up in the mountains in Panama. Most of the Panama is lowlands. Most of Panama is beaches, rice, plantain, whatever. Very little is up here. So if I give you this example of coffee, Panama exported last year 40,000 60 kilo bags. 60 kilo is the unit used for, quantities. 40,000 we exported. Colombia, our neighbor, 13 million, 14 million. Costa Rica, like a little bit less than 2 million bags. Nicaragua, 2.7 million bags. So Panama is so small in the mountains that people from my grandparents' time started coming here with my grandmothers to Boquete to move to nice weather, nice, green mountains, rivers, water flows. And they have come from other places, like they came from outside Panama, both of them, and they came with money, they bought farm, they brought different mentalities.
Of course.
different, innovations, different technologies, and then that makes the town improve.
Right.
If you compare Boquete to any other town in Panama, any other,
It's completely
different.
Yeah.
You know why? Because what I call is the traditionals with the innovators, with other mentalities that come from advanced countries most of the time, like Canada, with other mentalities. You have been all over the world, coffee, doing presentation, training people, copying coffees, buying coffees, roasting coffees, different coffee machines. People like that has made this town shine.
Right.
After the COVID, I know that I am extending myself a little bit, but after COVID, you can eliminate that.
No, you're good. Take your time.
Willem, who has more farms than me here. So Willem, I was talking to Willem after COVID. There was a celebration in town about something, some celebration in town. And I was with Willem, people were in the street celebrating, whatever, I don't remember what it was. And they said, Willem, you know what? I think that this town is never in a crisis. This time during COVID, it was in a crisis, but it gets out of a crisis like this because of all the background that we have had for many years since it was started. People innovating, bringing different mentality have helped this town shine. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for buying coffee from different growers in Panama, helping people improve on the roasting or whatever, the copying, telling them, no, this coffee doesn't taste good yet. I think that you did. That helps.
Of course.
That helps.
There's something so special about Boquete and Chiriquí as a whole. And I think for me, I've been in coffee 15, 16 years now, and I have been here for 5 months maybe. And this is easily the best 5 months that I've ever, the best time that I've ever spent in coffee. I feel, in a way, I feel at home.
Good.
Which is funny because I've only ever lived in one place. I've only ever lived in Calgary. This is the second time I've ever lived, the first time I've ever lived outside of Calgary. I've traveled a lot. But I don't consider being in a hotel room for 5 days in this country and then over here for another 3. I don't consider that living. Here, I'm living here. And I just immediately have had this sense of home. I feel I have a lot of purpose. I can add a lot of value. I can tell people this doesn't really make sense what you're doing, and I can come in with positive critique or opportunity and share, and people are very open to that. And it's been a really amazing experience.
I remember I saw you in one of your posts, and I wrote a quote, never a dull moment here. Hey, so Cole, you want a cup on Thursday? Well, Wilfried, I have to go to Volcan. Oh, Wilfried, no, I have to go to whatever. I will come back on Tuesday. I'm always busy.
There's always something to do.
Which is good, man.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
That's why you have been, it has been so easy for you here because you are very busy on what you like, and what you know, because you know a lot. That's why you are. It's not that I want to add something that is not necessary, but I want to still add it. That's why you are a judge in the Best of Panama. Because when we analyze judges in the Best of Panama, whoever listens to this is the truth. We just don't let anybody be a judge in the Best of Panama. We have a list like this of guest copper that we couldn't invite, and then out of the actual guest copper, we have a list like this that want to be judging the Best of Panama. We have to analyze everything. Right? Is he interested in Geisha? Is he growing in his market? Is he some sort of influencer in his market? Does he move around promoting Geisha and working with Geisha in different markets? So is he a good copper? If you count all those, you have been all over the world, especially in developed world, working with coffee, Geisha, promoting, doing presentation, training people, cupping coffees, with your brother. This is part of your team. Yeah. I heard him saying that he has been in coffee ever. He was a barista. Was he a barista?
He was, once upon a time.
Yeah, he was a barista. Yeah.
20 years.
Wow. So, and he's part of your team too. Yeah. So I think that those things we consider when we, let somebody be a judge in the Best of Panama. It's not easy to be a judge in the Best of Panama. Not even in a national judge. To be a national judge, you have to be 2 years pre-judge, not miss a single day, and then score well.
Well, maybe one day I'll be a national judge. Who knows?
Buy a farm, bring bring you down to international, Joe.
Bring me down? I don't know.
Because if you buy a farm and you submit coffee, you cannot be an international.
Right,
You know?
of course.
It's your choice.
Well, Wilford, thank you for
Thank you so
agreeing
much.
to
Thank
do
you.
this with me. It's a pleasure to get to work with you.
Pleasure.
To get to have the conversation and share this out with our millions of active subscribers.
Thank you.
Just kidding. But, great to have you here. Where can people go if they have questions following this conversation? Where can they go to find you online? Is the best place to go through social media?
Yeah, I think that it's the easiest for Westerners, especially Instagram. I have my Instagram Lamastus, and they can write me anything there. If it is in China, they can go to WeChat, or like you, that you also post in
Xiaohongshu.
Yeah, in the little red book.
Yeah.
I send you with the boxes there. So, but in WeChat, they can write me in WeChat too if it is Asians from China, because in Taiwan and they can also use Instagram.
Okay, so if you have any questions for Wilford, you can either leave them down in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can reach out to him directly on social media at W Lamastus, or I suppose Lamastus Family Estates.
Lamastus Family Estate is Wilford University.
Wilford is one of the most energetic guys I know. He might be 65, but he's got the energy of
Thank you.
Maybe a 15-year-old. I'm not sure.
Thank you so much. Up until 8 p.m.
Yeah, don't call him after 8. Wilford, thank you so much for having us. Thanks for tuning in and watching another episode of By the Drip. We'll catch you next time with another great coffee conversation. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you.